Hey guys, it's Phil again. I did a non-spoiler review for X-Men Apocalypse yesterday and told you how much I love this movie. Now I want to go into a little more detail. I did like the story. It was very simple. Bad guy tries to conquer the world. Good guys fight against it. In the past, we had some quite complicated comic book adaptations, and this one is a simple one, and I didn't have a problem with it at all. It was very true to the comic books. The editing. I didn't like the editing. To me, that was the only problem of the whole movie. The middle of the movie wasn't edited in a very smooth way. All the story points were spot on, they were amazing, the scenes were great, but the editing took a lot of momentum out of that. And I really hope that there's going to be a director's cut with more scenes and maybe a slightly different editing. That would be brilliant, and I think the movie would benefit from that. CGI. There was a lot of CGI in this movie, and some people didn't like that. I personally loved it. Some of it was brilliant, some of it was mediocre, but overall, to me, it looked like a comic book brought to life, and that's exactly what I wanted to see. That's what, in my opinion, the trailers showed me. That's what the poster looked like. Everything said this is a comic book brought to life, and that's exactly what we got. If some people didn't like that, I cannot completely understand that. I personally loved it. Makeup. Some of the makeup was brilliant, some of the makeup was pretty poor. I thought that Nightcrawler had an amazing makeup. Beast sometimes had a good makeup, sometimes he looked different. I don't really know why, but his look was a bit inconsistent. But for the most part, I liked it better than in Days of the Future Past. Mystique, again, in some scenes her makeup was pretty good. In some scenes it just looked a bit too much like makeup. Apocalypse, his makeup, I think the character design was amazing, but there were quite a few scenes, especially close-ups, where you could just tell that this is makeup. For me personally, I'm a makeup artist, and it didn't take me out of the movie. I'm used to spotting makeup, and to me, the performance of Oscar Isaac was good enough that I could ignore the makeup. So let's talk about a little bit about characters. Colonel Stryker. To me, he was unnecessary in the movie. He felt a little bit shoehorned in, and to me, he was just in the movie to introduce Wolverine again and again. That felt a bit shoehorned, but I was happy with the scene. I think the scene in the Weapon X facility worked well. Unfortunately, I think we never actually had a real character arc for Stryker in none of the movies, which is a bit unfortunate. So I hope that at one point we actually do get a real story arc for Stryker, because he's always just the guy who does something that bad and then disappears, and he does exactly the same thing again. Jubilee, great casting. She looked amazing. Unfortunately, some of the scenes she was in were cut out of the movie, so she was only in the movie for a couple of moments, which was really sad. Luckily, there is actually like a spot on YouTube available now where she talks about, like, Jubilee as a character talks about the Xavier School for the Gifted, and that if you're a mutant, you should join it. And I thought that was amazing. I love this viral marketing. It's just brilliant. Moira McTaggart. She was an amazing part of this movie. She was so important. And I love the fact that there is a human as part of the X-Men almost. And I loved the romance between, or the non-existing romance between her and Charles Xavier. I thought that was really funny. It was some of the funniest scenes in the movie. I absolutely loved it. And she did a great job, and again, she really feels like an 80s female character, and that was great. Caliban and the Morlocks. Caliban is the mutant who can find other mutants and tell what powers they have. And I was over the moon that he was introduced to this movie. His scene was brilliant. I think the contact lenses were great. And the actor, he's an Icelandic actor. I think he was really well chosen. And it was really interesting to see him as a mutant broker, almost like selling mutants to people and just making money. I think it was a very good setup how this world where mutants are a part of society, how mutants are being used and integrated into society. So I thought he looked great and worked really well. Wolverine, I think his scene was shoehorned into the movie. I was really happy that the costume was, or that the whole scene was very accurate to the comic books with the helmet on, the virtual reality helmet. The only thing I really didn't like was that he was wearing trousers. I think they just should have had him naked with the batteries in front of his junk. But, well, he was interacting with kids, so I guess that was maybe the reason why he wasn't naked. Nightcrawler. Brilliant, absolutely amazing. Nightcrawler is probably my favorite, no, he is my favorite X-Men characters, and I loved him being introduced like this. He was very naive and he behaved like a kid. He behaved like an outsider, and the fact that he really didn't know anything about American culture was brilliant. And Quicksilver had two big scenes. Everybody loves the first scene, the big scene where he saves everybody. I really didn't like the scene. I thought it was fun, it was really well shot, but it felt forced into the movie, and I didn't understand why he actually was able to save everybody. He doesn't hear the explosion as far as I know, and just runs into the mansion and saves everybody. It felt forced, unfortunately. But the second scene he was in, where he fights Apocalypse and punches him out, I thought that was one of the very best scenes of the whole movie. That was a scene when I actually jumped out of my seat and was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I can't believe what you did, oh my god. So that was, I'm so looking forward to see that again. Cyclops, his character arc was really good. Again, it really felt like an 80s movie, with being in the school and fighting with this guy, or like flirting with his girlfriend. I thought that was brilliant, and it's the first time we were giving a good Cyclops, and I'm really looking forward to him becoming a leader in the next installments. Jean Grey was my favorite character in this movie. How her powers were depicted was breathtaking when she was fighting Apocalypse. That to me was the best thing of the scene. And when she entered Charles's mind, I started crying. I was over the moon. Absolutely breathtaking. The Four Horsemen, Psylocke. I think Olivia Munn did a great job. The fighting scenes were spot on. I liked the costume, and I think she looks 100% like Psylocke should look. The fact that she didn't get a lot of dialogue was fine for me, because she's a fighter more than a talker. She was a little bit underutilized, but it was a long movie. There were so many characters, and I really hope that she's getting more screen time and a real story arc in the next installment. And I think her reason to join Apocalypse was, for me, very understandable. She's a warrior, but she was only used as a bodyguard. When she saw somebody that wanted fighters, warriors, she was like, yep, I'm a warrior, I'm willing to fight for you. So I did understand her motivation. Angel, very different from the comic books. All this anger, I loved him as a angry kid, and he was believable, and the fact that he lost his wing almost like in the kind of like in the comic books was brilliant. he lost everything. He was at the lowest point in his life, and somebody gave him power and just saved his life pretty much. So I believed him. Storm was probably my favorite horseman, and I love the fact that she introduced Apocalypse to the world, and therefore he chose her, and that he called her a goddess. Magneto, the fact that Apocalypse shows Magneto how to actually work on the magnetic field of the planet, that was breathtaking, and I think he had the best story arc in the whole movie, losing his family. When he did the lullaby to his daughter, I had tears in my eyes. It was really touching, and I think the actors that played his family were brilliant. Apocalypse, a lot of people had problems with Apocalypse because of the way he looked. I personally loved it, and also because of his portrayal. People said that he wasn't intimidating enough and not scary enough and threatening enough. I really liked that. I liked the fact that in the beginning he was almost like a normal guy, just with a lot of makeup, because he just woke up in this world. He was careful, and he just talked to people, convincing them to join him. Bryan Singer said that he has the power of persuasion. I think he had the power of just talking to people, and even though he was a god, treating people almost as equal. Like, hey, do you want to join me? I'm a good guy. So I love the fact that he wasn't threatening in the beginning, and later on when they had the big fight scene, oh my god, I think he was incredibly threatening, and I did believe him as a character. So I thought Oscar Isaac's performance was very understated and spot on. I loved the way his eyes changed when he used his powers. I loved the way his voice changed when he used his powers. They made him human and godlike at the same time. Charles Xavier, I love James McAvoy in this role, and in every movie he brings something completely different to this role, and in this movie again, he starts very naive, very hopeful, and very 80s, and in the end of the movie he again is a different person, and we're getting closer and closer to the Professor Charles Xavier that we know from the first three movies. So I thought that was brilliant, and his connection to Moira McTaggart was, again, some of the best scenes of the movie. Mystique, a lot of people had a problem with Jennifer Lawrence's performance, and they said you could tell that she's not interested in the franchise anymore. That might be true, but I thought her character Mystique in this movie, she doesn't want to fight anymore. She doesn't want to be part of the whole mutant movement anymore. She's forced to go into it again. And I think that Jennifer Lawrence did a great job showing that her, like, oh, I don't want to be here. Well, maybe she doesn't want to be in the franchise as well. But in that case, reality and the movie just told the same story. And I thought that Jennifer Lawrence did a great job being Mystique. I'm not a huge fan of Jennifer Lawrence, but I thought she did a good job. I didn't have a problem with her. So, just want to mention a couple of scenes that I really enjoyed in the movie. I loved the first scene in ancient Egypt where the old Apocalypse dies and the new one is reborn. I thought the old Apocalypse looked amazing. The Four Horsemen were really, really threatening, and the depiction of their power was very brutal, and I really loved that. I also loved the plan of the humans, how to get rid of Apocalypse. Very good plan, and great scale of the scene. Yeah, I already mentioned Quicksilver's second scene, which I really loved. Angel's wings, when Angel gets his new wings, the body horror when his ribs come out of the body. I thought that was spot on. it was torture, it was very explicit, and when he opens his metal wings, that was just bombastic. I loved that. Nightcrawler saving everybody, that was brilliant. He was the newest member of the team, and he ends up saving everybody, and they don't make a big deal about it. He just does it, and the whole scene is so chaotic, and he just jumps around and saves everybody. I thought that was very realistic. Like, if that would happen in a real world, it wouldn't be choreographed. Things would just happen. Shit would hit the fans, and that's exactly how it felt. That's why I love the end fight scene so much, because stuff is just happening and it doesn't end, and they have to fight and fight and fight. I thought that was absolutely amazing. The scene with Charles Xavier, Apocalypse, and Jean Grey in Xavier's mind, that was mind-blowing, and I loved how psychedelic it was, how much Apocalypse changed his size. But again, during the whole end scene, I was crying the whole time because I was so happy to see all of that. And one scene that was a bit off: the Four Horsemen, Apocalypse, and Charles Xavier being on the mountain and just talking. It felt very, very staged. But again, I didn't have a problem with that because it's a comic book brought to life, and I thought it was a bit slow, and the fact that the horsemen were just standing behind Apocalypse, they felt just staged and placed. Not a perfect scene, but doesn't destroy the movie for me. And the end credit scene. When the end credit scene started, I had no idea what was coming, and when this person walked towards the blood samples of Wolverine, I was like, okay, interesting. And when he closed the suitcase and you saw Essex, it actually took me a couple of seconds. I was like, Essex? Who was Essex again? And then I was like, oh my god, it's Sinister, oh my god, it's Sinister. Everybody around me was like, what's his problem? Because they didn't get it, and oh my god, I was like, you guys, you have no idea what that means. And the fact that this is pretty much the introduction of X-23, and I love X-23, that was just amazing. So that was my spoiler review for X-Men Apocalypse. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Maybe share the video, it would really help me. There's gonna be more and more reviews for older movies, new movies. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed X-Men Apocalypse. Go to Rotten Tomatoes and please leave a review for the movie and rate the movie, because at the moment it's at 50%, and I think the movie is much, much better than 50%. I do understand that people didn't like it, but if you like the movie, please support it. Thank you so much, and see you next time. Peace.